to Hull. My name is Karen Okra and I'm chair of Hull Caribbean Stories. I'm with two ladies today, Lynda-Louise Burrell, creative director, and Catherine Ross, founder and director of the National Caribbean Heritage Museum, Museumand. Welcome to Hull.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
The Museumand were first introduced to Hull online for Hull Black History Month 2020, celebrating Black achievement. And from that, Lynda-Louise and Catherine helped to create Hull Caribbean Stories. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself, Lynda-Louise and Catherine? Tell us about the Museumand.
Right, well, I founded the museum about 6 years ago, simply because, again, like now, there was a lot of stuff in the press about the negatives of Caribbeans. And I wanted to say to the world that Caribbeans have made great contributions to the UK, and I'm very proud of that. And I think more people needed to know. So I set about, it was my mission to let as many people know about the Caribbean contributions to the UK. Now, it wasn't just for people who are non-Caribbeans or of Caribbean descent. It was even for some of the children, the third or the fourth generation of the Windrush generation, who needed to know their history and their heritage, because it's not a main item on the school curriculum. So it was going to be fun for the whole nation to learn about the Caribbean contributions to the UK. I was a bit tentative at first. I wasn't sure how it would catch on, but it really has. And I've been gratified because now, like with you, we're collecting stories from around the country about the Caribbean contribution to the development of the country.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's
Would you like to add to that?
Yes. I got involved with the museum. Catherine and I are mother and daughter, and I got involved quite early in the beginning, didn't I?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to help Mum with branding the idea of the museum and getting the story out there, so all people really understand and really wanted to learn and wanted to care about Caribbean culture. Because, you know, history and heritage isn't the trendiest or the coolest thing. And we wanted to make sure that all people, whether they were Caribbean or Caribbean descent or not, found this important story and wanted to get involved. So we wanted to make sure that it was really engaging, the stories that we told, really fun, and it could resonate with everybody, whether you're Caribbean or not. And we seem to have done that to date so far. And we really enjoyed it. And no matter where we go in the country, whether it's a place that has a lot of Black people or not many Black people, people have captured it, been caught on and loved the spirit of it and got involved. So much so that whenever we do an exhibition, people always say, when is the next one?
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to working with you. So please tell us, why are you working in Hull right now? What are your thoughts and what are you doing?
Well, it was you. You approached us and said, "Hi, great things are happening up here, but you need to help. You need some help with spreading the word." And we were excited about it because although we have travelled around the UK, we hadn't got as far as North Yorkshire and the Humber. So we wanted to come, and it's been exciting. I understand that the name given to people in Hull and the region are called Hullensians. Well, we're looking forward to becoming a Hullensian because we're finding out it's a great place to live and to be. And what we're going to work hard at doing is pulling out those juicy Caribbean stories that will even more ensure that Hull is on the map as a tourist attraction.
Well, that's a nice answer. That's a nice, good answer. What I was going to say is that there's this woman called Karen Okra, and every Sunday at about 2 o'clock we'd have a 2-hour conversation, just about everything and anything. And we became really good friends. And from there, we said, okay, let's come up to Hull and we'll help Hull's story, Caribbean story, be heard all over the country. I think it's really important. I think that everybody, no matter where you are in the country, whether you're Caribbean or not, needs to know these different stories. And even if you can't see many Black people on the street or many people of mixed heritage on the street, doesn't mean that the stories aren't there. And that's things that we've found out so far about Hull. And this project we're doing now is the beginning and the starter and the taster. But there's so much more to come. We've already started doing the research for those stories, and we're really excited to bring them to people of Hull and of the whole country, and let people know these wonderful stories and these wonderful pioneers and local people now like yourself that are doing great jobs. But it's still a bit hard to get all those stories out there. So we're going to hopefully work with you, champion you, and put Hull on the map.
Oh, well, thank you. And you did get that right. It's usually 2 hours, and anybody who knows me knows that I do take a long time in telling a story. But for this story, I look towards you two to tell that story, because that's one story I've not told. So thank you. Just a little bit about why is it? What is Windrush? Why the word Windrush? Where does this come from? And do you know what is it linked to?
Right. It's directly linked to the first ship that brought a lot of Caribbeans post-war to England. We came at the invitation of the British government to help to rebuild the country after the war. So great things happen with invitations. That happened, and the invitation to Hull. So we have great expectations of that. So we were invited by the government to come and help rebuild the country. And all over the Caribbean, people were excited about this. This was an opportunity for them to come to the motherland.
Well, the streets were paved with
gold. So we were told. But they came and they loved it, because it was something they'd heard a lot about, and they knew there were opportunities here, and it was an opportunity for them to show their skills. And what that group of people were, I've been putting a name to them. They were the cream of the Caribbean islands. The talent that we had there were like, let's go to the motherland and help. So it was almost a brain drain from the Caribbean to the UK. You got the best of us at that.
Definitely. So yes, the first ship was called the Windrush, and that came with mostly Caribbeans from Jamaica, because obviously the Caribbean is different islands. They're mostly Jamaicans, but it did stop in other countries and other islands on its way. So just to let you know that Catherine is of the Windrush generation, but she didn't come on the Windrush, and she came from a different island called St. Kitts. You came on the Montserrat.
Oh, the Montserrat. I came on the Montserrat.
So even though she didn't come on the Windrush, everybody that came between 48 to 71,
that's right,
were called Windrush, the Windrush generation.
Yeah.
Lynda-Louise, why was Windrush Day created?
Windrush Day was created by Theresa May amidst the whole Windrush scandal, and it was given to us as a way of an apology of all the awful things that had happened, all because, and it's getting a bit controversial, but it is what it is, because the government didn't do their job, keep the records properly, and let the community know what they needed to do. So these awful things with people being sent back to the Caribbean or detained didn't happen. And it's unfortunate, something that didn't have to happen, but on the back of that, we did get Windrush Day, which is a national, well, it's not a holiday, but it's a national day of remembrance of the Windrush generation. So it's a day when the whole country is supposed to pause, reflect, celebrate and commemorate the Windrush generation and all the wonderful things that we've brought to this country. It's only been the third year. We're going to the second year.
No, third.
Is it the third year? It is the third year. Keep that bit in. Third year. Obviously, we Caribbeans have always reflected on that day of them, the loved ones that have passed and still here. But now the country's doing it as well. So it's the third official Windrush Day, even though obviously every year we celebrate as a community. And it's a time when, we want to get it to a time where everybody knows it's Windrush Day. Everybody, the whole country does stop and have that reflection. And it is catching on. Like I said, it's only the third year, and schools do things, but we want it to be something a bit more like Remembrance Day, General Remembrance Day, when everybody stops for that moment of silence and reflection. That's what we need to get Windrush Day to. And I think it will happen bit by bit with great things like this, as the whole of Hull now is going to be celebrating and commemorating. Can't get my words out. But little by little we'll get there. But I think it's a wonderful thing that came out of something that wasn't so wonderful. But hopefully from this, changes will be made, and people would appreciate other people, other cultures more. So it will do more than just for the Caribbean community. Hopefully it will help with other communities as well. Settling into England, because the country will treat people differently and better.
Oh, thank you. And for Hull, obviously Hull, this is our first year in celebrating Windrush Day. So can you tell us a little bit, what are we doing in Hull to celebrate Windrush Day?
Oh, wow. On the day, we're going to be telling and reminding people what a great day this day is all about. And then it will also be the launch of the project, which is called Hull Caribbean Stories, where we will tell the stories about the Windrush generation and some of their heritage that they brought with them that is now forming a part of British society. But we are publishing a book which we hope everyone will try and get a copy of from the libraries. The libraries are going to be the place where we're going to distribute them from, which is going to tell you about 70 objects and things. Now that's said in the English way, 70 objects and things. But if you say it as a Caribbean, it's 70 objects and things in patois, that the Windrush generation, we approached 184 of them and said, if you wanted the country to know about British Caribbean culture, what would you want them to know about? And they identified a whole load of things, but we distilled it down to 70 things.
The 70 things that most people said that came up time and time again.
Yeah, and those are in the book. So it will give you a flavour of the Caribbean, the Caribbean that we came from, and the Caribbean that we've introduced into British society.
The British Caribbean.
The British Caribbean experience. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it covers everything from food to the political and cultural contributions, what a Caribbean home is like, because it was a very different lifestyle back in the Caribbean to what we experienced in the 40s, 50s and 60s. And even now it's a different kind of evolution of the Caribbean home, but it'd be fun identifying the things that your great grandma would have had in her house. Yeah. Because the whole thing about the Caribbean experience is the Caribbean and British history are linked. We have been a very long time.
Well, think about it. Who took us through the Caribbean from Africa? British. And most of the Caribbean islands are British. So it'd be quite fun for someone who knows nothing about the Caribbean and our way of living and our culture at all to look and go, that's just British, because we are entwined. And that's why it's sometimes frustrating when people say, you know, we're all different and that's a different history. Why do we have to learn about that? But if you actually dig into it, you'll see how close we all are. And even other cultures, when we talk about Caribbean culture around the country into different communities, people often say to us, we do that, that's yours, we do that, slightly differently. But that's the whole thing about seeing how we're all quite kind of interlinked and entwined, even though we keep our own cultures and traditions. And a lot of them do mirror each other.
But we do things differently. You'll also find out some of the history about what everybody calls now Jamaican patties. But that is what we've got now. But its origins came from the Cornish pasty that the plantation owners took over with them. The British plantation owners took with them as a food item to the Caribbean. And then over the centuries, it's become Caribbeanized. And now we've brought it back to you as Jamaican patties. And a similar thing we've done with black pudding, brought over to us, and now we've got a black pudding that's very different and very Caribbeanized. You're going to love all the food things that we've brought. You're going to love all the different genres of music that we've brought. And who knows, we may have Valencians doing rocking to Caribbean music. We'll have a lot of reggae and a lot of ska and all the different genres that we've introduced into British society. They're going to have fun.
Can you tell me, what do you want people to know about the Caribbean and the Museumand? Tell us about what you want people to learn and how they can get involved.
Well, for me, the first thing is that all Black people, Caribbean, African, and in between, we're not all the same. In the same way, not all white people or people from anywhere are the same. Whether it's looking differently, we speak differently, we different socio-economics, people always assume that if you're Black, you live in a certain place and you have certain education, certain job. That's not true at all. And people often think that Caribbeans came here because, it's a much better life. It's England, isn't it? Actually, a lot of people, including Catherine, had a much better life over in the Caribbean, where they were very, very wealthy, and they came here expecting a different way of life. They expected to have a better life than they had over there. But then they came here, they realised, people living all together in one place, or people's houses so close together and living in terraced houses. They wanted to live like that in the Caribbean.
That was a shock.
It was a shock. And how dirty England was, and the way that people lived and didn't really wash and had outside bathrooms. And we didn't have that unless you're very, very poor. People had a very different standard of living. So I just want to make sure that people realise that, we didn't live in mud huts, as people often thought when Catherine's generation came over here, the Windrush generation. So, and also the people from the Caribbean, like Catherine said, most of the people that came, so obviously it was an expensive trip, were the great and the good. So very educated people, and often you see those old films, and it's depicted a lot of the times in those films that people were surprised that we could read and write not well, but extremely well. Education in the Caribbean even today is much better than it is here in England. So things like that, I want people to realise that.
Just to sum that up, we didn't come with a deficit at all. Things didn't have to be fed into us. We were able to come and start work straight away, get involved straight away.
And often, we work a lot with the Windrush generation, they often tell us stories and say how, the average English person on the street didn't know as much about even their own way of life as we did, because we read and we studied and, we knew the facts and the figures, and we were real great royalists. So all those sorts of things, I want people to really understand that.
Yeah, because the education system wasn't matriculated here in the UK, so we were doing the same sort of educational exams and curriculum in the Caribbean that was being done here in the UK.
You have to remember as well, and this is what annoys me about the Windrush scandal, is at that time a lot of the Caribbean islands weren't independent. They were run by England. So we were, that awful phrase, Little Britain. We really were really British. That's why if you go to the Caribbean, even now, if it's go to an older person's house, there's always a picture of the Queen, wherever you're, and a picture of the Last Supper. That's in the book.
Yes.
So I think things like that, and I'm always saying that and explaining those things to people, but it's really important for people to know that. So that's the first thing that I'd say. And about Museumand, because we're very British in the Caribbean, people can really identify. And in the Caribbean, it wasn't just the British that colonised, even though the British have most of the islands. Lots of different countries do as well. French, Dutch, German, Spanish is what I was trying to think of. A lot of the islands are quite nice. So there's a lot of knowledge there. A lot of people speak lots of different accents, languages. So it really is a learned place. So so we're not here scrounging and wanting something. We're here to experience something. And only a certain person can afford to leave from one country to another to experience something. I remember in the old days in England, it was only the very, very wealthy nobility that would go to another country just for a learning experience. So that's a great thing I'd like people to know. And Museumand, we celebrate and we commemorate and we tell stories and we collect stories that are really engaging and that people want to know about, no matter where they're from. And our exhibitions attract a large audience and a large crowd because it's fun, it's different. And you know, in this day and age, you've got to keep people's capture people's interest and keep those interests as well. So we always try to put on exhibitions that are very different from one exhibition to another, so people don't get bored with that. And we just want to create things that are stimulating, exciting, and for people to say, like, when is the next one? How can I get involved? And always telling their friends and getting their friends to come because they've had a really great experience and want to share that. And that's what we do.
And once you look through the book of the 70 items, which we hope you will pop to your library and get your free copy, you will see 70 things that you may have in your home that will tell a similar story. You'll have a story. There's things like the tin bath, that, you know, you had your wash in front of the fire in and things like that, and many a story about that, and some great sayings that have come from that British practice. So we'll talk about that. You will find that in the book. You will find things about faith and belief, because people, you know, Christianity was brought to the Caribbean, and we brought it back to you in a much more sort of vibrant and lively way, and also colourful, because we talk about the way we dress to go to church and so on. So we give some explanations behind our vibrant experience.
We always say as Caribbeans that we brought the colour to the UK, or England at the time. People got here and said it was so grey and beige, and then we came with all our vibrant colours and pattern and all of that. So, and our hats for church and our gloves were very ladylike and dressed really well. And in the Caribbean, one of the things that we do is we love to dressmaker. We can look at something and make it look like a couture outfit. And a good sewer and a rich sewer would always have a hem that's at least like 5 inches.
Yeah.
Because that shows you how much money you can afford to waste the fabric. So all those little stories and
they make you giggle and make you understand and where people are coming from and what their aspirations are. So, but yeah, through it all, we end up, it's not like when we put on an exhibition, it's not where people go and look in glass cases. It's where people then band together because they're all laughing at the same thing, or say, wow, I didn't know that, and sharing it with a visitor, and then popping down to the restaurant and then having a chat there, or saying, see you at the next one. Do you know, it's forming relations between visitors. It's a group enjoyment activity.
Well, I'd just like to say that I'm looking forward to Museumand and yourselves coming to Hull, bringing some colour to Hull. Obviously, we do have lots of things happening here, but this is a first for Hull, so I think it'll be really good. And in terms of the book, 70 objects and things, I think the young people I work with, I think they'll be really looking forward to this, and I'm sure with the work that we're doing through young people, and it's intergenerational, I think it's going to be amazing. And I'd just like to ask you, for the Museumand, working in collaboration with the Hull Caribbean Stories, you know, how can people find out what's happening? How can they follow you and get involved? Do you know?
Well, you can follow us on our social media that will come up on the screen on our website. Website is museumand.org, and our social media is Museumand on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So you can also give us a call, that will come up as well. We often get a lot of phone calls from people having conversations, but we also have a hashtag which is going to come up on the screen as well. Not that I've forgotten it, but it will come up on the screen as well. So definitely keep in contact, ask us any questions, share any stories. That's always really important to us. Because, you know, history and heritage written in books by great historians is wonderful, but it's the actual real experience of people on the street. Because often great historians, they weren't there, obviously, the majority of the time, and they don't usually take the everyday man off the street's point of view in there. They only get really one view of history, whereas we try and, obviously as historians, but also as community people and people that work with the community all around the UK, we always have a different perspective, because all those voices from the UK are inputted into our work. So it's not what Catherine and I think, it's what has been shared with us, and we want to share those stories to other people as well.
Yeah. And ways in which you can get practically involved is become regular visitors at your library and at the heritage sites, because what we will be doing with them is putting blogs on their website, leaving information in those centres so you can pick up and find out what we're doing. And we're there at an invitation by Karen, but we want to become your friend too. We want to hear your story. We want to hear your story. And so, yeah, register, leave your details with the librarian or the museum, say, we'd like to talk more, we'd like to share a story. And we're going to try and get on other forms of media, like your mainstream newspaper and your TV and radio channels. So you'll be hearing what we've been getting up to, and then saying, but I've got a story on that theme for you. Oh, I know where the best place to go for that is. We want to have this being a Hullensian directed collection of stories. And so if you've worked with Caribbeans, if you've been to school or university with Caribbeans, we want to hear those sort of stories. And if you're not originally from Hull, but you've come here, tell us about the stories and the experiences you brought with you to Hull. So yeah, it's all of us, because we're all connected, so we want to hear all those different stories.
So go and pick up the book, and also in the book, given it has lots of different bits of information, there's also songs in there, there are sayings, there are quotes, there are riddles and rhymes. It's a very Caribbean book, meaning every page is different. You're not going to get bored. You'll laugh, you'll cry in places, you'll reflect, you'll holler, and you'll have a good time.
Yeah. It's a good read.
Because we wrote it.
Well, can I say thank you, Lynda-Louise, Burrell, and Catherine Ross, Museumand, and the Hull Caribbean Stories, and on this special day, Windrush Day, and we're looking forward to seeing you throughout the year, and especially in Black History Month in October, and we welcome you to Hull. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.